And if you read the accounts of that experience, you know, it's pretty wild. You know, things, spirits appearing in the room, and these brothers doing some pretty, you know, supernatural things. And at this meeting, there was a woman there named Helena, Madame Helena Blavatsky. Has anyone ever heard of her? Okay, she was someone who was a very gifted mystic. A mystic is someone who communicates with spirits, who experiences some kind of a oneness with God or with the spirit world. And she was living in Paris at the time. She was European, and in Paris, she was told to go to Vermont because she would meet someone there who would be very important to her future and her future work. So she went to this seance in Vermont, and she met Colonel Alcott, and they immediately gravitated towards one another, and they realized they had a lot in common. And she told him that she had come all the way from France to meet him, that he was really the reason that he had come. And during that time at the seance, not only were the Eddy brothers conjuring up all these, you know, these ghosts or whatever you want to call them, these scary things, Madame Blavatsky started conjuring up a few of her own. Russian Cossacks, you know, the fierce warriors of Russia during that time. This is before the Russian Revolution. And you know, these Himalayan masters that she communicated with, you know, they showed up too. And you know, I mean, whether or not we believe these things, Colonel Alcott was pretty down to earth and had a pretty level head, and he definitely sort of believed in the reality of these things, as did Madame Blavatsky. And Madame Blavatsky wrote a number of books that you can check out. The most famous one is called Isis Revealed. It's about 900 pages. I've never read it. I'm sure it's pretty dated by now. And after all of your diets and you know Marvel and DC comic movies and the and these sorts of things in sci-fi, I think you probably would find it pretty tame. But anyway, the two of them became really great friends, and they decided to team up together, and they founded the, as Siddharth said, the uh, Theosophical Society. And does anybody have any idea what that was and is? It's still around. What do you think it is, Aisha?
Sorry, there's a plane going by if it's loud, but I'm gonna assume it's where people come together and talk about different philosophies, maybe from different places. I don't know.
Yes, that's very accurate. It's a combination, the words theo, which means religion. So it's a study of a combination of the study of religions and philosophies. And the foundation of the theosophical belief system is that it's the brotherhood of man, because Colonel Alcott and Madame Blavatsky knew very, very well that all men are truly created equal, and that we have to look after each other's as our brothers and sisters and not discriminate because of race, creed, color, caste, or any of those things. So they founded this Theosophical Society in New York, and they gained a lot of members in the beginning. And then in 1878, Madame Blavatsky was told by her spirit guides that they had to move the Theosophical headquarters to India. So they got on a ship and they headed to Bombay, which is now, what is the new name of Mumbai. And during this time, they also studied Buddhist texts and Hindu and Zoroastrian texts. And they started coming up with a synthesis of the different religions of the world and incorporated them into the theosophical thought. So when they were there in Bombay, it came to the attention of Colonel Alcott through newspaper clippings that there was a really unusual thing that was happening on the island of Ceylon. And it was a debate between the senior monks there and some pretty right-wing fundamental Christian missionaries who were there for decades and centuries, actually. As you all know, Sri Lanka was a colony of European powers, first the Portuguese and the Dutch and then the British for 400 years until it reached independence in 1946, 47. But during that time, um, each of those colonial powers had brought with them missionaries to convert the people, to try to keep them from being the practicing Buddhists that they had been for centuries. And because they had the law behind them of the colonial power, they started suppressing Buddhist monks and Buddhist people from practicing their rites. There was a time during the 19th century that the British even made it a law that Sri Lankan people could not even get married in Buddhist using Buddhist rites. They had to get married under the colonial registry, and the idea of having any kind of Buddhist services at all for the people were completely banned. So the what's called now the Panadura controversy. You all know where Panadura is? It's a little town just south of Colombo on the Galle Road, and you stop through it on your way to the south. So they had this debate there. The Buddhist monks, Bhante Piyananda, who are these great Buddhist monks that you and I are so fond of? Can you tell us their names?
Gunananda,
Gunananda, Bhante Gunananda, and the other one?
Ultimately, Gunananda started dialogue, and other one, the high priest of called Sumangala.
Sumangala.
Ikadwe Sumangala.
Exactly.
In Panadura city.
In the Panadura city. So guess what happened in this debate? They literally had a debate between these fundamental missionaries and these really learned high Buddhist monks. Who do you think won?
The monks.
Hey, Derunu, right. The monks won. And yay, one for the monks, right? And so Colonel Alcott read about them in the newspaper, and he started becoming aware of the situation in Sri Lanka where Buddhism was being suppressed and that it was literally dying. I mean, it was dying. People were not being ordained. In fact, Bhante Piyananda, I guess you can tell us when the monkhood practically disappeared because of this. And they had to go to Thailand for preceptors. Was that during the 19th century?
No, before that.
It was before that? But it had been the same problem, though, because of the colonial suppression, correct?
Monk did not go. In 270 years ago, in Thailand, some monks came to the Sri Lanka before British court rulers came and give a high ordination. That time, okay, not much problem. Ordination, the monks are okay, but they didn't have authority and practicing and a lot of trouble.
A lot of trouble, but most of the trouble had started from the colonial oppressors. At the time, 270 years ago, it was Portuguese who brought in the Catholic fathers, and then the Dutch brought in the Protestant missionaries along with the British. So Colonel Alcott and Madame Blavatsky really loved the Buddha Dhamma. They had read all of the literature available and all the translations that were available, because it was during this time in the last part of the 19th century that Buddhist scholars started translating the ancient texts from Pali into English. And the Pali English dictionary came about around this same time too. So up until that point, the teachings of the Buddha were pretty opaque. Nobody really knew anything about them. They didn't know what the Buddha taught. So Colonel Alcott began a series of letters, a correspondence with um, Venerable.
Sumangala.
I'm sorry.
Sumangala.
No, with the other one. I forgot the other one's name right now.
Ananda.
Gunananda. Right. They started communicating, and Alcott basically offered his help to the people of Sri Lanka and the Buddhist people of Sri Lanka to see what he could do about getting Buddhism restored. So they decided to go there, and Colonel Alcott and Madame Blavatsky went there in May 16th of 1880. They landed. They went to Colombo. They first landed in Gaul, and then they took the long road on bullock carts all the way up to um, Colombo, and they stopped on the way in Panadura. And during this time, he and these two renowned monks became very, very close friends and associates. And they helped him, and they helped Madame Blavatsky found first in Gaul the Theosophical Society of Southern Ceylon, and then later they opened a chapter in Colombo. And the monks fully participated in this, and they basically opened a new branch called the Buddhist Theosophical Society. And I'm not sure if that's still functioning today or not. Do you know if it is, Bhante Piyananda?
Yeah, it is still there is headquarters in Colombo. They have
Okay, so there still is. Okay, well, that's good to know. So when they were there, a lot of things happened, and I did a lot of research. When Bhante Piyananda and I went to Sri Lanka, my first trip there in 2005, I was not even aware of Colonel Alcott. I had no idea who he was. And then Bhante Piyananda showed me a statue of him in front of the Fort Railway Station in Colombo, and started telling me a little bit about him. And it really made me very, very interested in finding out more about him. So I read all of his diaries. Bhante Piyananda gave me this book. Look at his beard. He had a long 19th century beard. And this book is called Yankee Beacon of Buddhist Light. And it's a biography of Colonel Alcott. And so I read everything that I could find on him in English, on the internet and books. And believe it or not, I got so intrigued that I wrote a movie about his life and about his time in Sri Lanka with Madame Blavatsky from 1882 to 1889. Here's the script. It's called A Teardrop in the Ocean. And one of these days, I hope to see this movie made. Bhante Piyananda has read it, and we think that it would be a really great thing for both Sri Lanka and for Buddhism. So we're going to see if we can't get that produced at some point after this coronavirus thing is over. But he had such a fascinating time there. What's wrong here? Hold on. Technical. He had such an amazing time there because he was such a strong-willed human being. He realized that the crux of the problem in discussions with the monks, the crux of the problem was that the Buddhist young people were not being educated in Buddhist studies at all. There was no Sunday school the way we have it today. All that had kind of faded away, and the young people, there were no higher education or even high schools or middle schools or anything for young people, young Buddhist people there. So without the knowledge of the Buddha Dharma, obviously the whole strength of Buddhism on the island would definitely start fading away. So anybody have any idea what he decided to do? What do you think, Dedonu? What would he do then? What would you do if you saw what was happening?
He took a trip there and then he went around and worked to spread Buddhism again.
He did. And so the first thing he did was he set up a fund called the Buddhist Education Fund. And he went all over the southern province, all the way up to Colombo and all the way into the central Uva provinces, collecting money to build Buddhist schools and universities. And as a result of him doing that, do you think he had any success? Have any of you heard of Ananda College? Okay, he was the founder of Ananda College. He also founded, I don't know, he founded many of them. He founded the Buddhist Boys School, Mahinda College in Gaul. He founded Siddhartha Kumara Mahavidyalaya, and he also started founding, those are all the universities, but he started founding Buddhist elementary and other schools. And I think during the course of his time there, he founded more than 60 of them, just single-handedly by one person going around the island, collecting money and working with the monks to build these schools. And many of them, I believe I'm correct in saying, Bhante Piyananda, many of these schools are still in existence today, aren't they?
Yes, they are doing very well. The reason was starting this school, if any people want to go, there were a lot of schools at that time, Christian missionaries run. If anyone into that school, he or she must become a Christian, otherwise cannot enter the school. That's the reason why they want to start competing them Buddhist school.
Thank you, Bhante. So if the young people wanted to get an education, they had to basically convert to Christianity and go to a Christian school. And that was the only way they could learn anything at all. The missionaries had that much control over the colonial government that the colonial government was afraid to act against the missionaries or do anything to oppose them, as well as the Catholic fathers. The Catholic fathers came there with the Portuguese and the Dutch, and of course the Protestants also with the Dutch and the British. But they really started to squeeze the Sri Lankan culture right out of the island, and especially the spiritual beliefs. So he founded all of these. There was another one, Dharma Raja College in Kandy. He founded that one in 1888. So he was very, very, very busy. And they actually took the side of the local people down there in the midst of all these controversies. They had their lives threatened, believe it or not, by these men of God, the missionaries. There was a riot in Kandy when they went up to visit the tooth relic and the temple there. They were taken there by the high monks. And the missionaries printed these slanderous flyers, depicting Alcott and Madame Blavatsky in horrible, horrible pornographic ways. And they distributed them all over the city to discredit them. And so what Alcott did is he took to the stand. He took to them. They didn't have microphones, of course, back then. But he told them, you're supposed to be men of God, and yet you say these slanderous things about us. So he sort of put them to shame. And with every time that the missionaries were put to shame, or whenever the monks or the Buddhists won any ground against them, they retaliated in horrible ways. There was even a time in about 1890 when there was a Buddhist procession. I forgot the name of the town. Bhante, maybe you know, north of Colombo somewhere, and they were going through this town, and it was a town that was controlled by mostly the Catholic fathers, and most of the people in that area were Catholic. And so they started to, they attacked, more than 1,000 people attacked this innocent Buddhist procession that was just going to the temple in this area. One man was killed and about 40 were sent to the hospital as a result of this riot. But what do you think the police did? Any idea? Rami
Nothing.
too, what do you think?
They did nothing.
They did nothing. In fact, they took the word of the Catholic fathers and over the word of all these people that have been attacked, and they just let it go. They swept it under the rug and they did absolutely nothing about it. So when this happened, the monks, the high monks, Venerable Gunananda and Sumangala wrote to Colonel Olcott, who had gone to India. They had meanwhile moved the Theosophical headquarters to Chennai in southern India, in Tamil Nadu. We now call it Chennai. In the old days, it was called Madras by the British colonials. So they moved their headquarters there, and they wrote to Colonel Olcott and asked him for his help. They told him about this incident where the riot had happened. So he immediately got on the boat and he came back over, and he heard their pleas for help. And so he literally decided that he would take their demands and their pleas for justice all the way to the Home Office in London. So he got on the ship, and in those days, I don't know how long do you think it would take to sail to London, Sanduni? From Colombo to London?
Oh my gosh, maybe like, I don't know, several months, a year maybe?
I would say several months. I don't know how long, but of course they just had sailing ships. So he went all the way to London, and he made an appointment with the Home Secretary, who would not see him, by the way. He had his assistant see him and kept him waiting for hours. And then Colonel Olcott, he told the guy, he said, "I know you know who I am and what my reputation is. I'm coming here on behalf of the people of Ceylon with these 6 demands." And so he told him about this problem with the riots, and he made several demands. One of them being that the people in Sri Lanka should be able to get married wherever they want and have religious freedom. And then they told him they would get back to him. So about a week later, they got back to him, and almost all of his demands were met, including one that was really very, very important to everybody who is close to Sri Lanka today, including all of us. He told them that he wanted to have the holiday that we now call Vesak be able to be celebrated, because up until this point, the young Sinhalese people in Sri Lanka were not allowed to celebrate Vesak at all. So he went to them and he made the demands that they celebrate Vesak. And he came back and the people were really happy. They finally had a champion, and he was able to get some relief for the poor people of the island. And they wound up having the first Vesak celebration in 1891, I believe it was. And before the celebration happened, he decided that the Buddhists needed an emblem. So he himself, Colonel Olcott, what do you think he did? He designed something very special that's very familiar to all of us. Siddharth, what do you think it is?
I'm not sure.
How about you, Hasvin?
The Sri Lankan flag.
No, but you're close. Satula, you know? Lisara? Any idea?
Maybe the wheel.
No, but you're getting closer.
Buddhist
So,
Oh.
Derudu?
Buddhist flag.
Yes, the Buddhist flag. And what does the Buddhist flag represent? Tharushi, what does the Buddhist flag represent?
It represents I'm not sure,
Anybody have any idea? Rami too, do you know? You know, we see the flag every time we go to the temple, every time we have a celebration there, and it never occurred to any of you to want to know why it was like that, why it's like that? Bhante Piyananda, why is the Buddhist flag the way it is?
It is Buddha's, when a Buddha got full enlightenment, at that time has aura called
Aura.
the aura, yes, Nila, Pita, Lohita, Odata, Vanjasari, it means the color, 5 colors. That is the one represented full enlightenment.
Exactly. So the Buddhist flag is actually the 5 colors plus a combination of all of them to make 6.
Yeah.
And this is what Colonel Alcott came up with after a lot of trial and error and different designs. And so the first Vesak that they had in Sri Lanka in 1891, they flew the Buddhist flag. And they also had celebrations where they called it the Festival of Light, that we still do. And what are those the lanterns called? Who knows what those lanterns are that we have at the temple and everywhere in Sri Lanka? People have contests to make these lanterns. Bhante Piyananda took me to see some amazing ones. Twice we were there, Vesak. Any idea? Here I am. The white man has to tell you guys what the Sinhalese word, Kurawa. Anybody ever hear that? Vesak Kurawa? No?
Vesak Kudua.
I can spell it wrong. I'm allowed. I mean, pronounce it wrong. Okay, you guys never heard that word before?
We have, I'm pretty sure most of
I
us
forgot.
have.
Okay, well, I don't think you'll forget after today, because they all came from the first one that Colonel Alcott, he threw this gigantic Vesak thing for the entire island. And everybody came, they flew the flags, they had the lights, and they also started another custom there. What do you think that was? Bhante Piyananda, I will never forget when you and I came from the airport after 30 hours in the air, and we went to Gangarama Temple, and on the way, what happened? You remember, Bhante?
Dancer.
Dansala. There were these people coming up, and I thought they were terrorists because it was in the middle of the war, and I thought, oh God, you know, they're attacking our car. But all they wanted to do was give us ice cream. And I couldn't believe it. You know, we had a good laugh about that for years. And so Dansala started at this first Vesak ceremony as well. I'm not sure if Colonel Alcott, if it was his idea or somebody else's, but this is when it took place. So it's been going on all this time, right down to Vesak when we have them at Dharma Vijaya.
Anagarika Dharmapala's idea.
Was it his idea?
Dharmapala.
Dharmapala. Okay, so this is another reason that I became very, very interested in Colonel Alcott. Back maybe 20, 22 years ago, Bhante Piyananda and another dear monk friend of ours, Bhante Chandawimala, they gave me the Buddhist name when they made me a Dhammachari and then later a Bodhichari. Does anybody know what my Buddhist name is? No? Dharmapala. Do you know what that name means? It means protector of the truth or protector of the Dharma. And so I think that Bhante Piyananda and Bhante Chandawimala, they knew that I would kind of become an integral part of their organization, and that I would stand up for the truth and stand up for the temple and stand up for all of you guys, right? That's what I do, Sanduni, right?
For sure.
So,
No doubt.
anyway, so I became very, very interested in Dharmapala, especially when I learned that his mentor was Colonel Alcott. They met, and the first time they met, Madame Blavatsky was there. And her guides had told her that there would be somebody, a young person coming to the meeting where they were, and that he would become a very influential person in their movement. And so it turned out that this young man, I forgot his Sinhalese name. Do you remember his name, Bhante, before he was known as Dharmapala?
Hmm.
I can look, or we can all look it up and find out. I just can't remember the name. But when the first time she saw this young man enter the room, he was only about 17 or 18 years old. She realized that he would be the one, and he would become very, very influential. She's the one that her guides had said would be coming. And so eventually, Dharmapala, he requested that he become a member of the Theosophy Society. And he got his parents' permission, and he was initiated into that organization. And Colonel Alcott became his mentor, as did Madame Blavatsky. In fact, Madame Blavatsky took him to their headquarters of the Theosophical Society in Madras or Chennai for a few years, where they studied and wrote, and where she helped him develop. And then he came back, and it was right about this time that Colonel Alcott was getting, when he had returned from England, and he came up with the idea of doing the Vesak ceremony, and the Dansala was his idea. So what happened with Dharmapala later on? What happened with him? Any idea? Dharmapala became a very, very, very influential person in the Buddhist world. He went to India, and he was really, really hurt and troubled by the fact that Bodh Gaya, the birthplace of the Lord Buddha, was controlled by this really nasty Hindu guy who was very mean to the Buddhists there and would not let them erect any shrines, and he wouldn't let them do anything, and the place was a mess. So he went to Calcutta, where Bhante Piyananda went to college, and he founded the Mahabodhi Society. And what does anybody have any idea what that society does today and did then? Any idea? Aisha, what do you think?
Help learn and spread Buddhism or keep it alive, maybe?
Yes. And he took this Hindu guy to court many times. He raised the money to be able to get control of the sacred area that we now call Bodh Gaya from the Indians into Buddhist hands. And he set up the Mahabodhi Society to help fund and deliver and develop Bodh Gaya into the place that you can now see when you visit there today. And he also, Dharmapala also traveled around the world until he died, promoting Buddhism. Colonel Alcott helped finance the Buddhist mission from Ceylon to the World Parliament of Religions, which was the first time ever in Chicago in 1893. And he made it possible for Dharmapala to visit Chicago, and he became the first person to speak about Buddhism in the Western world. Did you all know that? Okay, don't forget that part, okay? That's really important. And there were people there representing all the world's religions. You can look up this first parliament in 1893. Swami Vivekananda came from India representing Hinduism. In fact, he became a close personal friend of Dharmapala. And when Dharmapala was in Chicago and started running out of money, Swami Vivekananda helped support him financially and paid his expenses to be able to stay alive and eat. And so from there, Dharmapala started traveling. And there was one time when he was on a steamship crossing the Pacific, and he married he never married, but he met a woman on board the ship who would become very, very influential in his life. And her name was Bhante Piyananda. What was her name? Mary Foster.
Foster, yes.
Okay, now Mary Foster was from one of the leading white sugar planter families on in the islands of Hawaii. This is before the Americans stole it from the Hawaiians and made it a territory and then later a state. And so these sugar planters controlled basically the economy of all the islands, and they had done the same thing the missionaries had done in Sri Lanka, where they had suppressed the Hawaiian people and forbid them to dance the hula or practice their own religion or had anything to do with Hawaiian spirituality. And she became very, very sympathetic to Dharmapala, and they became close friends. And up until she died, she sent him money and financed everything. Oops. Sorry about that. Boy, these keyboards are really sensitive, aren't they? You hit one thing. Anyway, so Mrs. Foster paid for Dharmapala to keep traveling around the world, raising money for the Mahabodhi Society and also for promoting Buddhism in not only Sri Lanka, but around the world. And Colonel Olcott, he did not only visit Sri Lanka to try to help Buddhism, he also traveled to Burma and to Thailand and to Japan. And he tried to organize all the Buddhist leaders of all of these countries and join them together into a common organization that could really become a force in the world to promote the Buddha's teachings. And unfortunately, none of these people in the different countries really wanted to cooperate. You know, the Japanese wanted to do it their way, and the Thais wanted to do it their way, and so forth. So they were never able to put things together. But he did have quite an impact on all of these people by making them aware of what was happening in other countries with the Buddha's teachings. And so Colonel Olcott, because he had trained Dharmapala, everything that Dharmapala did, he was one of the first people, and Colonel Olcott as his mentor, to start paving the way for Sri Lanka to become an independent country. And so the influence of Olcott to Dharmapala all the way to our current government in Sri Lanka, there's a thread going through it because it really, really started with these two men back in the 19th century. So Sri Lanka, in a lot of ways, owes its independence today to Colonel Olcott and to the work of Anagarika Dharmapala. Again, protector of the truth, protector of the Dharma. He literally became practically the father of Sri Lanka, modern day Sri Lanka as we know it. So Dharmapala, though, he continued his love of the Buddha Dharma until his last days. And he even requested that when he knew he was going to die, he wanted to be ordained as a monk. So he was ordained as a monk. And then just before he died, the monks gave him his higher ordination. And then he passed away a few days later. And Colonel Olcott ended his days in Tamil Nadu at the headquarters of the Theosophical Society. And he died there in, I believe it was 1907. Madame Blavatsky left and went back to London, and she died in 1893. But these people have left an indelible mark, you know, on the culture of Sri Lanka to this day. And there were a couple of notes that I made here that so Colonel Olcott, here are the numbers. He founded 3 colleges in Sri Lanka, 3 Buddhist colleges, and 410 Buddhist schools throughout the island. I understated that drastically. 410. Imagine that. By collecting, some people, he would go to a village and people would give him 1 rupee. And he went around and it was so uncomfortable. You can imagine going around the island of Sri Lanka when the roads were horrible and all the rain that happens there. And you're doing it in a 2-wheel bullock cart that's pulled by a couple of cows. I mean, it would take weeks to go from one place to another. And so what he did, he was a very, very inventive person. So he invented this conveyance, a two-story wagon that he could live in, work in. They hung the pots and pans from underneath the axles, cook outside of, and camp in, like a camper, a two-story camper that was pulled around the island. And every time he stopped, he would open the door and get out and speak and have the people give him money to build these schools. 1 rupee at a time, he changed the course of history in Sri Lanka. Can you believe it? Sometimes just the intention of one person can have a huge, huge impact. How does this make you feel, Hasween, to know that you can really, that somebody has an impact this strong? What do you think you can do?
I don't know, but it's crazy.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Did any of you ever suspect that an American with a great big long white Santa Claus beard would ever have been this important a figure in the country of of your origin? This is what I was so shocked, you know, to find out about this man's accomplishments. That's why I had to write a movie about him. So let's all campaign to get this movie made down there. Maybe we can get you all in it. What do you think? So let's see, any other things here? So I just want to hear, go around the screen here and just give me your impressions. I mean, what did you learn from this? I haven't heard anything from Kai and Jai. What did you learn from today's lesson?
Well, I didn't really know about any of that. So, I mean, all of that, really.
Darushi and Gagani, what about you guys?
To me it was pretty surprising because like I haven't heard of these people, and I definitely learned a lot of things.
I knew you looked even hard to surprise you with anything, I know, but you looked a little surprised during some of this.
Yeah, it's cool to think that how unified people can be, and how even though we might think people can impact each other no matter what their race is, where they come from, what they look like, what impressions you might have of them, or what predispositions you might think they would be doing instead of helping you.
Very true. And you know what? This tells us that you never know where a great benefit is going to come from. Even a white man who was from the Civil War in America can go halfway around the world and change everything. He was a total game changer. Because, you know, if it weren't for Colonel Olcott, where do you think Sri Lanka would be today? There would be no monks, there would be no temples, there would be nothing there of the Buddhist heritage at all. You know, given another 150 years to now, it would have been totally wiped out, I guarantee you. This is what colonialism does. And you know, Aisha and Sanduni, you know, you've been in my class a long time. You know that I'm really, you know, the whole idea of missionaries and their arrogance to go into a place and try to change people and put them down for their cultural systems and beliefs, you know, it's something that I detest. And I think that that's what really attracted me to Colonel Olcott and Dharmapala, is that they stood up to these people. You know, just like in our country and in the world today, we have to stand up to injustice. We can't just take it sitting down. And this is one of the things that I definitely learned. How about you, Hasween? What did you learn from today?
I learned a lot, but I learned that how like anyone could be like a important figure, no matter who they are and where they come from.
Very true. Even a white American can go to Asia and make a difference. What did you pick up from this, Siddharth?
What really surprised me is like where Sinhalese people are like abused and like the police didn't do anything. That really shocked me. Like they put them under the rug, like what you said. Like, wow, like
yeah,
like
I mean,
I don't know. Like,
one guy died. One guy died and 40 others in the hospital, you know, nearly dead because of this. And the police just went along with the missionaries, the
Yeah,
Catholic
like
fathers, actually. But don't we see that even today in the
that's
West?
true. Yeah. Uh, is it like? Is there any way to stop it? You know,
Well,
like.
I posit that the only way to stop this is to change ourselves, to really keep our faith and trust in the Buddha Dharma. And one of the underlying things about the Buddha Dharma that I've always loved that attracted Colonel Alcott is this whole idea of brotherhood of man. I mean, are we connected or are we separate? You know, Aisha, you know the name of my last book, you know, the connectivity principle. We're all connected because we're all made out of the same thing, which is what, Dedonu? What are we made out of? Anybody know?
Energy.
Energy. There she goes. She got it. We're nothing but energy. We're just molecules floating around. We're all energy. And if I'm energy and you're energy, am I going to hurt you? How can I hurt something that is part of me? So the Buddha talked about this connectivity of all of us, you know, and about the brotherhood of man, you know, in many, many of his discourses. And he really, really taught us to be tolerant of others and to have compassionate for each other and to be kind to ourselves and others. You know, the meta, we talk about meta in class for years now. You know, we get the meta map out on the floor. You know, what is meta? What is meta, Sanduni?
Isn't it also energy, but like a good kind of energy?
Of course it is. What energy is there's no such thing really as bad energy unless people use it badly, right?
Yeah.
But energy, meta energy is the energy of loving kindness,
Mhm.
which is, you know, a very, very, very powerful tool that the Buddha gave us to be able to use. And Dedonu, I'll never forget your brother, Tisun, years ago before you joined our class. He used to talk about going to the playground in school when he was in middle school, and there was a bully there. And so guess what your brother did? He sent meta to the bully, and he came to class one day and he said, Stephen, you're not going to believe what happened. The bully totally changed. And I know it was because of the meta. So all of us can do what Colonel Alcott did and share meta in the world with everybody we come in contact with. So anybody have any other comments or questions about this class and any of the presentation that we had today? Ramitu, what did you get out of today's class?
I didn't know that Vesak, like people didn't celebrate Vesak till like the 1800s.
They weren't allowed to. It's like people in this country being told you can't celebrate Christmas. How do you think that would go over? But at least we have a democracy here, theoretically, and we're able to say, no, you can't do that to us. So I haven't heard from Setula. You're sitting there in the dark. I can't really see your face. What did you get from today's lesson?
I learned about more stuff about metta and more.
Very good. The Barua ladies, how about you? No, silent. So Bante Pianada, it's my time's up, and I'd like you to give us a final word, please.
Thank you so much doing these wonderful explanations. Children, you know, in Sri Lanka, every part of the country, we do have a Colonel Alcott statues. Ananda College, Candy Park, Gaul stations, and Colombo, every part. He is a Colonel Alcott is our hero. The reasons, without him, maybe today whole country would be Christians. Without him, maybe in Sri Lanka may not Sinhalese language. Without him, not only Sri Lanka, India, he is the person for behalf of the Hindu people. Hindus has the same problem with the missionaries. he is the real hero, not only Sri Lankan Buddhists as well as Hindus in India. Therefore, we have a great respect for him. Also, we call Madame Blavatsky. Also, we have a respect. We call white in Sri Lanka call Sudu Amma. Sudu Amma means the white mother. She's the Hawaiian queen. What is her name again, Stephen?
You're talking about Mary Foster.
Mary Foster.
Not not Madame Blavatsky.
No, Mary Foster's is called Sudu Amma because she is the giver money to start at the schools in Sri Lanka. Lot of money giver because she has a lot of money she gave to Anagarika Dharmapala. Those days we didn't have any one single Buddhist school, all of Christian schools. Within 1 year, the Buddhist school more than Christian schools. See, Dharmapal, Colonel Olcott and other Sangha members could get more than, but within 1 year, over 600 schools, Buddhist school, Christian was only 400.
Wow. And you know, another thing that would never have happened without Colonel Olcott, I would have never met any of you.
Yes.
And that would be too sad. Thank you all, and thank you for your participation today. And if you have time, you know, do a little more research on this topic because it's fascinating. As an American who grew up in the South, I had no idea about who Olcott was. He's not mentioned in any history books that I've ever read. And as you all know, you know, I am a real history buff and never heard of him. So one of the reasons I wrote that movie is I want to make Olcott famous. Even though he's been dead a long time, I still want to make sure that he gets his name remembered, right? Okay. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you so much, children. Next Sunday, we do not have a Sunday school. What we're going to have whole day on that day, since early morning, 5 a.m. until 8 p.m. Whole day, Buddhist monks have been going to chant Ratana Sutta. Not only our temple monks around the country, all of Sangha members going to join. Each monk once time chanting Ratana Sutta 108 times. You can go to Facebook, you can go to YouTube, watch. Therefore, next Sunday, we're not going to have a Sunday school. Following Sunday, January 3rd, I believe, we're going to have again a full moon day celebration because we do not have a Sunday school, but Sanduni and Aisha and other senior students get together with Upuli, maybe going to Devdunu, so for those you guys going to have a Dhamma discussion. We will let you know what type topic you're going to select that day. Thank you so much again. Have a wonderful, happy New Year. All of your wishes come true. Huh? Be safely stay like I stay in the temple, never going outside. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.